everyone. Today's a big day for me. I turned 29. Boy, is getting older bittersweet. I can't say that I get as excited for birthdays anymore like I did growing up. Then again, which adult does? I have sat and done a lot of reflecting on my past years, but I first want to start off by thanking God for allowing me to see another year. I hope He blesses me with 100 more. Josh always jokes that he's croaking at 65, and I tell him he's not allowed. I have to go first, so he better be living another 100 more years with me. I'm actually a cougar for the next 3 days. Josh's birthday is on the 12th. So I don't know who gives who more shit about me being the older one between the two of us. Um, my 20s have definitely been filled with lots of firsts. True life lessons, failures, successes, personal growth, and I guess self discovery. For starters, you're not going to have the same friend group as you did in high school. You'll watch it slowly dwindle away, and that's okay. It's okay to outgrow a friendship you once had and make new ones. Most of my friends are older than me, which is kind of funny, but I thoroughly enjoy their company and the conversations we have. Like surround yourself with people that are going in the same direction that you want to go. If you surround yourself with a bunch of millionaires, odds are you're going to be the next one. A lot of my friends that I have now are moms, and with moms, there's this like unspoken language that we have and like respect. Like we don't have to talk every day and there are no hard feelings because like life happens, like it really does. And then when we do catch up, our conversations are filled with crazy ass shit. I've also had to learn to walk away from situations or relationships that like weren't meant for me. I've also, I'm sure, been called a bitch or heartless, but not all family is good for you. If they're toxic and no longer carry the same beliefs as you and you don't want to be associated with them, then that's okay too. We're all in charge of our own persons, and I'm huge on that now. Having kids opened my eyes tremendously. Breaking generational patterns has been a goal of mine too, and still is to this day. Like, it's okay to set boundaries. As a parent and adult, I'm allowed to set different rules than I had growing up. Like, for instance, call me a lame ass mom. I don't care. But I really don't want my kids spending the night at friends' houses. I don't know, like, maybe that's weird, but I just don't feel comfortable possibly putting my kids in a vulnerable situation. I'd rather have my kids try drugs and alcohol at home. Like, you want to get high? We'll get high together. You want to get drunk? I'll make sure you get drunk. Like, we'll have a good time. Um, and like, just I just witnessed my parents go through a divorce at 28 years old. I'm also Catholic, and we don't believe in divorce. However, it might be a little controversial to say this, but I'm extremely happy for my parents, especially my mom. Just because a religion says you can't do something, like get divorced, I don't believe you should stay in an unhealthy marriage because of that. That just causes so much turmoil for everyone involved. And I'm sure, like, as scary as it was for her, and being 50 years old, she has spent a long majority of her time being a homemaker. Like, I have 9 siblings, by the way, and now she's working full time and is choosing herself and is finding her self worth. She walked away from a toxic situation that no longer was working out, not just for her, but my siblings as well. And it was an admirable thing to witness. Like, I'm so proud of you, Mom. I hope you know that. And I still have 4 younger siblings living at home, and she's the full time breadwinner. And honestly, like, my siblings are very well taken care of in that aspect. Like, I really don't think that they lack much, like, financially. You know, you can either learn and grow from a difficult situation or let it crumble you. And I'd like to say that I grew from each one. I can't say I did it gracefully or textbook perfect or anything. Your 20s are hard for a reason, I guess. They're stepping stones for your years to come. You're laying down a solid foundation to build on, and hopefully, with each passing year, I did just that to make for, like, quote unquote, easier 30s for myself. My early 20s seemed like such a blur, really. I turned 20, then 21, and then I had babies at 24, 25, and then again at 28. And it all really just meshes together. Like, each day, week, year just seems like one big one until I sit and break it all down. Now, remember, there's no cheat codes or handbook on the do's and don'ts or how to's for your 20s. Like, you're winging this shit. No one is sitting you down and scolding you for the bad decisions you make or the ones you didn't make. Heck, I remember growing up, my mom always told me that it's easier to learn a lesson from actually going through something on your own. She could tell me left and right till she's blue in the face to do something or not to do something. But I would just ignore her and find out the hard way sometimes, you know? Like, I think that's a great way to mature as a person. You can't grow from being comfortable. You have to become uncomfortable and put yourself in situations where you're left with unfamiliar feelings or, situations to really see your full potential. Don't get me wrong, I've dealt with my own subconscious thoughts of doubt and putting myself down, and I'm never going to be good enough for this or that. You just have to say screw it and go for it. Like, I would say that's recent for me, but I totally have the life is too short mentality. Although I didn't always have it. Like, I guess that's a thing with getting older that I'm like, let's do this. Yeah, sure. Like, let's go jump in the car and follow Josh to New Mexico for work. Oh, now you have to go to Denver? Okay, well, do you feel like following me to Telluride after that for me to do a job there? Uh, is that even a question? Hell yeah. I don't care if I have to drive 8 hours with 3 kids who have to go potty every 20 minutes. We're doing this. I feel like a nomad most of the time. My mom and mother-in-law have joked about us being gypsies because we're always traveling. We can't ever seem to sit still for too long. On a more serious note, like I lost my grandparents on my mom's side at 20. That was extremely hard on me. I never experienced the loss of a loved one that affected me as much as that one did. My grandma passed first and then my grandpa. There was a 5 month span between the two. As a whole, my family came together to really just mourn. I'm pretty sure all we did was cry and eat our feelings. Like, I remember we did nothing but dinners all the time. And it's a good thing I was still going to the gym consistently because I probably would have gained 50 pounds. I lost my grandparents on my dad's side years prior, but I wasn't as close to them. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still sad seeing the effects it has on our family. It just didn't hurt as much, if that makes sense. Like, I grew up going to my great grandparents' house all the time, and they'd go to sports games or whatever kind of event you had. I mean, they did their best to be present and supportive grandparents. When I lost them, I was mad that the world kept going. I was so sad, and I had all these feelings of like frustration that life was so unfair. How can people be going on about their lives when I'm so sad and wanting the world to just stop for a second and let me mourn? Time doesn't stand still for anyone or anything, it just keeps going. Their passings was the end of the glue that held our family together. We all had to learn to get along without them, and that was really like life altering. They left such a void in our everyday lives and in our hearts that it was very traumatic for me. Like, I think about them every day and I'll miss them forever. Whew. I married really young too. I was also 20 and divorced by 21. He was my on and off again boyfriend for years, and when he asked me, I said yes. It was one of those things my mom told me not to do, but I did it anyways and learned the hard way that he wasn't good enough for me. The day I went to pick out my wedding dress is the day I found out he had cheated on me multiple times during his deployment with the Marine Corps. That was another big heartbreak and life lesson I had to learn from. I thought, as young and naive as I was, that I was going to spend the rest of my life with this person. Don't get me wrong, like I did love him. Then that love faded, and I'm actually the one who pursued and paid for the divorce. I didn't know it at the time, but it's illegal to send divorce papers to someone serving overseas. So technically, he was served when he got back from deployment, but our marriage was said and done months into it. And then, oh my gosh, the insecurities that followed, like all of that, were unlike anything I've ever dealt with. Like the feelings of not being pretty enough, not being skinny enough, not being good enough in general, just poured over me. Like I completely lost myself during that time. Like I was definitely having to find my footing. And again, it was almost like dealing with the death. You lost someone you cared for and loved and had to learn to do life without them. It sounds really stupid now, but back then I wanted him to pick me so badly because I thought I was winning some great shiny prize. I would have done anything for him. I would have changed myself. He was only putting me down to make himself feel better. And he didn't just cheat once, he cheated multiple times. And I realized now I was dealing with a narcissist. Like, when I asked him why he did it, he threw the blame on me. Like, I'm the one who forced him to cheat because I didn't make him feel whole enough. Like, crazy, right? During that time, it seemed like the end of my world was just crumbling. I didn't have a set path. I was still living at home, but I knew I wanted to get out. No, fix that. I needed to get out. I was done with the mundane. I tried for about a year to join the Air Force, and they kept telling me, like, oh, we don't need you. Okay, well, I don't care that you don't need me. I need you, so help me. After about a year of twiddling my thumbs, I walked into the Army recruiter's office for shits and giggles to see what they could do for me. And during that period of time, my oldest brother had joined the Corps and left home. And like that was huge. No one in my family ever really left home. My dad was in the army, but we only heard stories. Like my siblings and I like weren't born yet to witness it, you know? So anyways, uh like I was saying, like no one in our family, like none of my cousins, aunts, uncles, like no one left home. And if they did it, it wasn't far. It was like right down the road. And I'm not throwing shade at anyone. Like that's just the truth. Like there's nothing wrong with it. My brother and I just wanted more. Like we wanted to get out. So after talking to the army recruiters, I signed on the dotted line and left for the army. And during my time in the military, I was sexually harassed and assaulted. And I used to be so embarrassed to say that out loud. Like the thought of it gives me this gross feeling and like I just want to crawl into a hole. And I'm sure people are probably gonna judge me for this, but I leaned on Josh and alcohol like a lot during that time. Like I'm over drinking, don't get me wrong, and I got pregnant shortly after, and that helped with the alcohol consumption. Like I stopped immediately once I found out about being pregnant with my daughter Natalie. And honestly, like I'm not afraid to confront it anymore because that is part of my story. Like I am the way I am today because of that. And I think I've become like mentally stronger from it. And like I just don't take shit like I used to anymore. Like I definitely have thick skin, I guess you can say. And like what's even crazier is like I repressed so much of it honestly that I was actually taken aback when all the memories came flooding to me when I was filing for disability through the VA like just a few months ago. And like I kind of want to touch on that too. Like with that being said, like I want everyone to know that there are good men out there, like really, really good men that treat women with respect, like treat women the way that they deserve to be treated, like and just overall treat women really well. And I found one. Like, Joshua, I love you with my whole heart. I met Josh, like the absolute love of my life and best friend, and our story is a crazy one. We actually met outside a bar at a taco stand in Tucson. Like, how organic is that? Like, I love telling our story. At 23, I got pregnant, got out of the military, and had my first baby, Natalie, at 24, then my second baby, Tatum, at 25. And then I found the love I always wanted and deserved, and Joshua and I tied the knot in May of 2021. He traveled for work, so by that time, we had lived in Colorado and Virginia for a short time, and then back home to Arizona. And during that time, both of us learned a lot about each other. I learned how to live with someone else for the first time. I learned what it meant to be a homemaker and still am. I learned about finances at the start of our relationship. You know, like working as a teenager and young adult and making my own money and then spending it how I wanted, like solely on me, was what I was accustomed to. So, having a family and, of course, a husband, my priorities changed. Like, if I want something, I'll go get it by all means, but more times than not, I'm buying for my kids. And Josh is super good at sitting me down and asking, like, what I want for the month, like what money can he set aside so I can go spoil myself with. Like, and I am not the money person at all. Like, that's another thing I have to get better at. I was working part time from home back in 2022, and it was a mortgage call center. And I had this one gentleman call in, and he was needing help to pay his mortgage. And he mentioned that he was the breadwinner, and his wife took care of paying all the bills. You know, like he just made the money, and she took care of everything. Well, she passed away, so he was having to learn to do it all on his own, and I just sat there and cried. Like, my heart literally broke and just went out to this complete stranger on the phone. So, and I'll never forget that. So, like, I really need to learn to take care of the finance part because, like, not like Josh is going to die tomorrow, but like, God forbid anything does happen to Joshua. Like, I am completely clueless. So, thank you, Joshua, for taking care of the finances right now, I guess is what I'm saying. And then growing up, finances were just freely talked about amongst my parents, and it really affected me as a kid, like, truly. Like, when you can't do anything to help contribute to, like, the financial struggle, it really does something to you, like, mentally, and we were not rich by any means, and I knew that, so when we were struggling, like, which we more often than not, like, the whole house felt it, and I don't want that for my kids. I've already told Josh, and he agrees, our kids will never know about our financial situation. If we're struggling or doing great, we'll keep the same energy. Like, it's between him and I, anyways. They're kids, let them be kids. It's our responsibility to make sure they're happy and well taken care of, Like, we just recently tried to buy a house. Okay, buying a house is for the birds. Like, how is anyone buying a house in this economy? Like, unless you're an illegal or sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, it's almost impossible. We realized we should have been looking a few years ago, but we're so back and forth with where we want to settle down. Like, hard truth is that Josh and I really should have been taking every extra penny from when we were first born and putting it away so that when we were so that when we graduated kindergarten in the early 2000s, we could have bought a bunch of real estate like no problem, like no questions asked. A big financial achievement for us recently is that we bought a boat in April last year. Josh grew up going to the lake. I never really did, but I wanted a boat just as badly, like if not more than him. And Josh was unfortunately out of town working when it was delivered to the house, so he didn't get to revel in the moment with me. But when that boat was like delivered and parked outside my house, like I just cried. Like I cried for the both of us standing outside. And then when he finally did come home, we sat outside of the boat that's still parked in the yard for hours, just soaking in the moment, like, damn, we did this. And then when we finally got it on the water a few weeks later, that same feeling of, damn, we really did this, hit us all over again. It was a great, great summer. It'll be hard to top last summer for sure. And our girls loved the boat too. Like, I was a little nervous how they would react being on the water, but they totally proved me wrong. Like, they were naturals, almost like they grew up on the water. Our girls also learned to swim, and that made me emotional. I started crying. They're little water babies. Tatum even learned to drive the boat. I have a video of her in the driver's seat just ripping the boat. I mean, she's got the throttle all the way down. She's going as fast as the boat can go. And again, it was it was a very emotional moment, not just for me, but Josh. Our little Tatum's a badass little girl. Like, she's fearless, let me tell you. I will say that Josh and I make it a point to keep a our relationship a priority. We don't go out very often. Like, it's very rare when we get a date night, just the two of us. Not having family around makes it difficult for us to get out. We had the best babysitter ever, though. Like, shout out to Jaden. She moved about an hour away, and I just haven't put the time and effort into looking for someone else. Like, it's so hard for me to trust anyone with my kids. Like, I've had really terrible experiences in the past with my kids and sitters, and I'm just so afraid of leaving my kids with anyone. Like, a few years ago, I got onto care.com looking for a sitter to come to my house and entertain my kids while I was working from home. And my first official day on the job, I had a no call, no show. It was so frustrating. Little Tatum was only like a year and a half, and I had taken a call, and this bitch was on the phone complaining about a fee for making her mortgage payment late. Okay, like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called her a bitch, but she just had like attitude towards me for like no reason, and I can't control her financial situation. Like, I'm just the poor bastard on the other side of the phone for her to vent her frustrations to, you know? But she decided to make some like snarky comment about my kid crying in the background, and the comment she made was like along the lines of, like, can you wipe the late payment fee for me since I have to listen to your kid cry in the background? And oh my gosh, like, I was already annoyed, and then her comment just made my blood boil. And like, of course, you have to remain professional. It's a recorded line, but my kid has nothing to do with you paying your mortgage late, and she wasn't even being that loud, so that was annoying. And I also think keeping the spark alive is going to look like very different for every married couple, regardless of how many years you've been together. And like, our way of keeping the spark alive is spending time in the morning and at night with each other. I love our coffee dates and pillow talk. Like, absolute my two favorite. I'm also huge on quality time. And so whether we're watching a movie or show or like show together or just sitting in our closet talking, it means so much to me. Like, yes. Okay. For some reason, Josh and I have the best heart to heart sessions in our closet. And it's like, it's not a small closet. It's actually pretty big, and we always find ourselves sitting in there. We'll even bring Lincoln with us so he can be involved. And I'll tell you what, like, we have found that learning each other's love language, like, or love languages is crucial. Like, you can have more than one. And I also love it when Josh is home from work because we tend to run errands together, and running errands together like aren't so bad when he's doing them with me. Like, like, I don't have to be that like mama bear and keep my head on a swivel. Like, he's doing it for me. So I just feel like way more relaxed, like just sipping my iced coffee, walking down the aisles, like all nonchalant, while he's the one that's like, I guess, kind of stressed out. And we love Costco. Like, we take family trips to Costco all the time, like all the time. It's in my nature, it's who I am, but I tend to just shut people out if I'm over something that they did. Like, I've really had to learn to change that. And being married has taught me that leaving a problem in the air and sweeping it under the rug isn't something that should be done. Like, I witnessed my parents do that, and like how much it caused issues. And so, again, breaking the generational patterns, I am now so focused on like, let's address the situation at hand and work to find a solution. Like, it's so much easier to ignore the elephant in the room, like, don't get me wrong, than it is to sit and have a conversation about the situation, um, and try to come up with a solution. Like, a good communication is key to any relationship. And like, I'll say it louder for the people in the back. Like, good communication is key. And I'm truly blessed with Josh for sure. Like, he is my rock and safe place. I am able to fully be myself 100%, and I believe he is his authentic self with me most days. Like, we laugh most days at just how weird we are together. Like, we definitely joke with each other that almost to the point that, like, if you didn't know our sense of humor, like, you would think that we despise one another. But like, that's just us. Like, that's our relationship. We're constantly picking on each other. But like, it's good. Like, you need that. He's a funny guy. And forget what forget what everyone says about planning for kids. Like, how the heck does anyone plan to have kids? What really makes you ready to have a kid? Like, is there ever a good time to have kids? Like, I was always one of those people that said like, "Oh, I want to have my first baby at 30 and, blah 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 blah." And, clearly that didn't happen. But the more I sit and think about it, like, hard truth is your kid doesn't give a shit about how old you are, and all they want is to be like loved and fed. Like, don't forget about that part. And being a mom is weird. Like, once you become pregnant and your body starts to change and you're looking in the mirror and you see the changes it's making for the baby, it's like you don't know who you once were before you were pregnant. Like, that is dead and gone. Like, completely foreign to you. And unfortunately, body dysmorphia was real for me. Like, I'm over it now. And like, I'm slowly bouncing back. to what I was pre-baby. And then like you're so scared, so nervous and excited for what's to come, but like also can't believe that at the end of it all, you're going to have a legit whole ass baby to take care of. Like I can't even take care of myself, and God is entrusting me with a little human. But my gosh, like the second you hold that baby in your arms, it's like, how did I ever live my life without them? Like, I would kill for this person, like, no questions asked. Like, we ride at dawn, bitches. Like, all the insecurities of not feeling good enough are out the window. You made this tiny little human that thinks the absolute world of you. Like, I am this baby's lifeline, and it's exhausting and so rewarding at the same time. My new life goal is to give this child the best life I can possibly give them. Yes, like for sure, days go by slow and the years fly by. Like, that's no lie. My oldest is about to turn 5 and starts kindergarten next year. And how is that even possible? I swear I just had her yesterday. Like, there are sad days and hard days, like extremely hard and trying days. Like, I've broken down and cried more than a handful of times. Like, I miss who I was before kids, and yet I love the shit out of my kids. I know it's just a season of life and I'll eventually get back to finding myself once again. Like, I won't be the old me. I'll never be that person ever. But it'll be a newer, better version of myself because of my kids. Like, they have given me a bigger purpose. A few months ago, I saw something on either Facebook or Instagram, like I can't remember which one, but it was this post that said your kids will see their parents for who they really are, so make sure you're someone who they look up to and admire, like something along those lines. And whew, like I hope my kids will like who I am. And I don't want my kids to be me by any means. I want them to be so much better than me. Like, I want so much for them. So, yeah, one day I'll have the time to get back to my old routines of sleeping in or having an uninterrupted conversation with Josh. And, one day the house will be clean for more than just a few hours, and I won't want to pull my hair out all the time. But I know I'm going to miss it too. Like I know when it's no longer loud and crazy in the house, and I'm gonna want it back. Like, as crazy as that sounds. So I'm definitely trying to soak it in, like all in as much as I can, because time really does go by so fast. I've had 3 C-sections and postpartum on different levels with each kid, and Josh is a rock star. Before having kids, I heard stories about women who get postpartum depression and the effects it causes. So that was a scary thing to dwell on during pregnancy. Like the thought of maybe having severe postpartum and not being in control of my body, like, whew, that was like mind-boggling. Like the thought of that. My last birth was definitely the hardest on me. I thought that going in already having prior experiences with C-sections that it would be the easiest, but that just like wasn't the case. And let me just stop and say that there is absolutely nothing like seeing the person you love become a dad. The way Josh loves our babies, and me, of course, just takes my breath away. Like when we had Natalie, um, she's our oldest, and I'm still in the hospital. Like I'm in the bed recovering, in the room, and the nurse came in to take Natalie to run some tests. And I thankfully had my phone on me, and like I pulled it out real quickly, and it was to capture this picture of Joshua. He's laying on the other bed looking up at the ceiling, but I noticed like he had Nat's little socks on his fingers. And when I asked him what was wrong, he said he just missed her. Like he couldn't wait to have her back in the room with us. And I don't even think it had been 2 minutes when the nurse like had come in to take her. With Lincoln, my last one, I ended up with an infection on my incision, and Josh, or Dr. Daddy, like our girls call him, really, I believe this man is in the wrong occupation. He should have been a doctor. He took such good care of me. He helped me keep it clean, took care of the house and the girls. If he was nervous or overwhelmed or scared even for me to possibly go under the knife, because that was a possibility if the infection didn't get better, he definitely didn't show it. He stayed cool as a cucumber. And thankfully, the antibiotics that I was given helped to kill it. So again, with good communication, I was lucky enough to know when my postpartum hormones were hitting me really hard, and it hit me the hardest with all three kids around the 2 week mark, and only lasted a short time, I would say. But thankfully, like I'd let Josh know, and he'd be like, okay, well, I'm here for you, like whatever you need. And he'd take my mood swings with a grain of salt. Like, I truly believe having a good support system is major during that time. It takes a village to raise a family. And that's another thing Josh and I have had to kind of handle on our own. We are our own little village. My family lives in Virginia, and his mom is in Tucson, and his dad is in Minnesota. So it's just the two of us. And, some may question, like, why that's such a big deal to us, but I'm giving us a pat on the back. Josh's work takes him all over the western half of the country, and he doesn't have a work schedule, like a set work schedule. So for weeks at a time, I'm alone with the kids and he's off working. And it's hard. Like, there's no denying that one. It's all we have known, though, since we got together and started a family. After our oldest, Natalie, was born in October, Josh had to go back to work to Colorado, and I had Natalie in Virginia. So, me being me, what do? I got in my car, literally just packed my closet and duffel bags, and I packed my mom and Natalie, of course, and we drove to Colorado. My mom flew back home after getting me to Colorado safely, and then from there, Josh and I lived in a hotel room, and we signed our lease in January. So from November, when I got to Colorado, up until January, we lived in a hotel room. Yes. And we had never actually lived together before. And on a whim, I just decided to go live in a hotel room with a newborn and him. So yeah, kind of crazy. We reminisce on that short moment in time spent in the hotel like a lot. I loved it, and I definitely think we grew as a couple, like instantly, like overnight. And then unfortunately, oh, COVID happened shortly after we moved into our apartment. So we're stuck in this apartment, with no family at all in Colorado. And then you learn just how quickly trying times can be. I was not only a mom, but a stay-at-home mom, and I'd never been that before. And I went through all these roller coaster of emotions of like loneliness, but then at the same time, like couldn't believe um like just how full my cup felt. Like, I learned to love my life of just being with my little family, and I still feel that same way. Like, the rest of the world is just noise. And I was pregnant during COVID, and that was such a huge change for my first pregnancy. Like, it sucked ass, to say the least. Um, Natalie wasn't allowed into the doctor's offices with me, so every time I had an appointment, Josh would either have to sit in the car or take off work to sit with her at home because we didn't have anybody to watch her. And it just felt so wrong that he couldn't be there with me at these appointments. So if you're a mom and you went through those times alone because your husband couldn't be there with you, I feel you. Like, my heart really goes out to you because I know how trying those times were. We moved in as a family of 3 and left for Virginia as a family of 4 after a year of living in Colorado. We gave Virginia a chance. We actually moved in with my parents and my siblings. It was a full house, like, for sure. At the time, there were 14 people living under one roof. That lasted about 6 months, and we decided that we wanted to get out of Virginia and give Arizona a chance. Side note, Josh is from Tucson, and I met Josh in Tucson. So, and it was nothing against my family or anything. We simply just changed our minds about settling down in Virginia at the time. And we currently, are here living in Arizona. We've been here almost 4 years now, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. And Josh's mom lives in Tucson, and we live, closer to Phoenix. And we just don't have a close relationship, like we just don't, like, put it plainly, like, it's just not there. And his dad lives in Minnesota. We went up and visited Jeff a couple years ago, and Minnesota's beautiful. Like, I would love to go up there again and visit. And then, Jeff came down and saw Lincoln, after, and, he's met the girls. So I grew up going to my grandparents' house and not having my family around was devastating. I'm so used to being away from my family now, though, that it doesn't sting like it used to. It's a change not being able to just to drive to my mom's or her come to me to hang out, like, but thank God for FaceTime because my mom and girls are thick as thieves. Like they FaceTime all the time and I'm so sorry, mom. And Josh grew up doing the same thing. So not having our girls experience that is sad, like because we got to experience growing up going to, grandma and grandpa's house. And however, like our girls don't know what they're missing. So like again, like they're not feeling like the emotions that we're carrying because they don't get to experience it, if that makes sense. Okay, so all in all, to kind of wrap up all of my rambling on, I wanted to touch on something really quickly. A big takeaway from my 20s is to make moves in silence. And the only opinions that matter are from the ones within the four walls of your home. Um, Social media is a highlight reel of people's lives, and from personal experiences, the more you share with the outside world, the more two-faced people become. Not everyone is a fan of yours, like family or not. And I think it's easier to stay focused on your goals without outside opinions. And then again, a big thing to keep in mind is that not everyone is entitled to know your business. I truly believe it's a privilege, I guess you can say, to get to know me and what's going on in my life. And my mom once told me, and I'll never forget this, and I don't even know where she got this. Like, I think she mentioned that she got it from my grandma. I'm not sure. But I happened to mention it to Josh one time, and so it's a big thing between us. And if you aren't, pardon my French, but fucking me, feeding me, or financially taking care of me, then your opinions don't really matter. Like, I'll hear you out, but at the end of the day, it's about my best interest. So, yeah, take that as you want. You might be like, oh, she's crazy, like, wow. But that's my belief. And I've come to learn that it's the truth. At the end of the day, it's about myself, Josh, and our kids, and our little family, our SEAL team that we have created. Um, I have learned and I have loved a lot in my 20s. I have set goals and watched myself or Josh and I accomplish goals we have set together, or we've worked our asses off to achieve goals just to see them fail miserably in front of us. I've become a very goal-oriented person throughout my 20s, and I want to say that I can't take all the credit for being so goal-oriented. Like that's a lot. The credit is, I'm going to give that to Josh. Like that's him. He's very goal-oriented, and it's kind of hard not to be when I'm around him or talking to him all the time. And if I'm not setting goals, then I definitely just feel like I'm coasting. And regardless of how small a goal is, set it anyways. And it truly does something to the psyche when you hit that goal. Like you want to keep continuing to hit these goals, regardless of how small or big they are. After my pregnancy with my girls, I so badly wanted to get back to my pre-baby weight, and I made it happen. Like I was hitting the gym hard. And now I have the same goal with Lincoln, to get back to my pre-baby weight before all of my kids. Like I would love to be where I was pre-babies. Another goal of mine was I got my real estate license as well, and that was monumental for me. That was something that was actually very trying. I did that all online in like 3 months, which is, whew, that was huge. My 20s have just been such a whirlwind. And for my 30s, I really think I'd like to settle down a bit and just breathe. I've had 3 kids in 5 years and have lived in 3 different states during that time. And I appreciate all of the cool places I have seen and visited because of Josh's work. but I really do hope my 30s bring Josh back home. And I'm hoping with the foundation I've built, it'll hold strong to make for a better future. But I'm definitely enjoying life right now, though. Like, I'm anxious to see who my kids grow up to be and where we'll end up settling down. Maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out where that is, like where we will call home. It has definitely been a fun and crazy ride so far. I can't imagine what the future is going to hold. But if you're interested, stay tuned for more of my crazy ride. And I love you guys. Thank you for hearing me out. Vote red. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Bye.